Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Traumaplicity podcast with your host, Dr. Amanda Heman, author, breakthrough coach, and speaker. Traumaplicity is trauma plus simplicity. You might say, well, trauma and simplicity go together because trauma takes the brain to know that it takes simple steps to help heal trauma, which can take some complexity, and trauma can be complex in a process, but our brain wants to know that there's some practical, and that's how you have traumaplicity. We have such amazing guests and so excited to have Jessica tonight. I'll introduce in a moment. And during our shows, our guests will share part of their trauma story, share practical tips and strategies that help them through their journey so that you can glean it, and then sharing a word of encouragement because we always want to share that there's hope no matter where you are on your journey. Thanks so much for tuning in. Tonight's guest is Jessica Lundgren, and she is a dating and self-worth coach that helps women re-enter the world of dating after a long time with clarity and confidence so she can find her quality man. Jessica, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Amanda. It's so great to be here. This is a topic I am really passionate about, so thank you.
Absolutely. And I think it's certainly a really important topic. And Jessica, I'd love to hear your part of your trauma story that you'd share with us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I came to be a dating and self-worth coach because of my own journey in the dating world. And I started out dating when I was 16, really naive, like most of us are at that age when it comes to love and relationships. And I got together with this guy. I had met him in Hawaii. We ended up living 20 minutes away from each other in California. And I was like, it's fate. Like, this is it. He ended up breaking up with me 6 months later. And I was just devastated. He called me a drama queen. I couldn't understand why. I didn't understand the label as to like how he even got that label, and my dating journey spiraled down into pretty dark places after that. Really getting together with anybody and everybody that gave me the time of day. I ended up contracting, a curable STD, which was one eye opener, and it's just like one unhealthy relationship after the next. And it took hitting rock bottom really to kind of get my eyes opened and the curiosity to get out of the pattern and the situation that I was finding myself in. So that's kind of the sum up.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for your openness and sharing about that journey of dating, and then thinking, oh, okay, like this person's all right. Then having the breakup, having these different people that you're like, I just want love, right? And having all these different people say, wow, this is really hard because this is not working out, which led you to what you do today. And so I'm just curious. So at some point, right, you talked about some of the health things that went on and everything. Some point you had said, okay, this isn't working. And so what was your big shift?
I think just realizing that like I was meant to be in a relationship that was fulfilling and long lasting. And every time I got out of one of these unhealthy relationships, I felt worse about myself. And it just got to a point where I was sick and tired of feeling that way. I think that's kind of what happens when you're in an undesirable situation, even a trauma-related situation. You get to a point where you either physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually just can't take it anymore, and you say enough's enough. You hit your tolerance level, and for some people it's less than others. Unfortunately for me, I had to bang my head against the wall quite a few times before really just going like, I'm more than this. Like I am worth more than this. And once I kind of made that decision in the moment, it wasn't an easy walk in the park journey. I was going to say, so one of the seminars that I attended, we had to go through this exercise where we had to think back to the earliest memory we possibly could think of that was painful. And at that moment, I realized like it went back to that memory of my first boyfriend, and the belief that popped into my head was I'm unlovable. And that is kind of really what shifted my path 180 degrees to, healing myself and really understanding why I was attracting the men that I was attracting, and how could I change it.
That's really powerful. So thank you for sharing your shift where you said, I deserve better than how I've been treated, and there is better. So you continued to move forward, and you had books, you attended the seminar, and you realized the root cause of it that went back to that original boyfriend and the belief of I'm not loved or I'm not lovable. And that is powerful. That's important to really realize what are our beliefs and where do they start. So thanks so much for sharing that, Jessica. It's powerful. And so you shared some of your strategies, but what were some others, maybe 3 to 5 strategies that you used to help you navigate through your time, even with relationships, your healing journey, that the audience may hear and possibly apply?
Yeah, so to understand that it's a journey, it takes time. It's something that really, whether it's been like one experience or it's been, years that it's kind of been ingrained to us. It takes time to rewire your brain, right? And so to just have patience with yourself and to know again that it's a journey. I think second off is, and it's kind of the piece in the dating arena that I really work on with my clients, is your mindset, is what are the beliefs, becoming aware of what are you telling yourself when you fall back into these habits, or like what's keeping you in this experience or scenario. What are you telling yourself that's keeping you there? Also, what's the story you're telling yourself? Kind of similar and overlapping, but a little bit different. A lot of women in their dating journey who have experienced something of trauma, they have told themselves a story that allowed them to survive back when it happened, right? Except what they're experiencing is they're continuing to stay stuck in that story because they're continuing to tell themselves that story, even though their experience is in the past. And so really becoming aware of what is the story I'm telling myself? Is it empowering me? Is it helping me move forward? Or is it keeping me stuck? The story that I always was telling myself is like, this is as good as it gets. Like, this is all that you're worth. This is what you deserve. And it was all subconscious, right? I would have never gotten into a conversation with someone and been like, oh, I deserve this, right? It was something that was so deep that I had to really peel back and uncover to really get the aha moment. And another really big one is like when you experience a traumatic event, or in my case, I continue to attract an unhealthy man after an unhealthy man, and I give myself sexually and emotionally, spiritually, mentally, like every way, over and over again, and it ends so poorly. You start to feel shame. You start to resent yourself. Like I literally had moments where I was like, who am I? Like, I hate myself. I hate this person that I'm being. And to really allow yourself to release the blame, release the shame, forgive yourself. I think that's one of the hardest pieces, is like forgiving yourself in the role that you had in, if you had a role, in, the results that you experienced.
Those are really powerful, and again, fairly practical, but sometimes can take time and you, because it starts with mindset. So Jessica, you said it takes mindset, and once we get it, and you had some great questions that are practical, such as what is my story and what's a story I'm telling myself, which really helps us think what are we believing? And you shared about, well, I believe that I was only in this type of relationship. This is what I deserved. And perhaps your clients as well, as they're going through that. And so that was really helpful. And certainly audience, you may be there thinking about this as you're listening. And you also shared about, really, it's about knowing who you are. So you really, as people are walking through this and learning, who am I? And that goes back to what you shared, is knowing what you deserve. So I really appreciate those strategies that are powerful, Jessica. Some of them, I'm sure there's many more, but just really thinking about the practical. And so as we're shifting, there may be women, Jessica, who are tuning in that perhaps maybe where you were when you were 16, right? Or maybe they're older, but they're still in that type of relationship. Or they may be, I've been there, later in 20s or 30s, and they're sort of still in this spiral of not knowing who they are, having the story sort of off because they think this is all they're going to get, settling, or this is what they deserve. And so what would be some words of encouragement for that spectrum, of people that might be in it, people that are walking out of a relationship because they know they deserve more?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think first and foremost is that, like, the power is within you. It can feel sometimes like you're powerless to change your situation, but that only creates helplessness. And it can lead to depression when we feel like our situation is so out of control that there's nothing for us to do. The encouraging part about mindset is that it's always in your control. There is always work that you can do to help rewire those thoughts, to understand at a deeper level kind of your actions and why you're behaving in certain ways, and to just know that there is an answer, that these behaviors and these situations aren't happening just because. They're not happening because you're a bad person. They're not happening just because you've been dealt a bad hand of cards. Like, there are answers. And I think really understanding that is empowering, because then it gives you kind of a direction in where you can go. Like, oh, there are answers, let me go find them so I can have more awareness, so now I can start changing.
Yeah, so you mentioned that mindset is an ongoing journey, and certainly the power is in your hand, that we have it in our hands, that we can shift, that we can have that encouragement and move forward. And also, I really appreciate just sharing about the importance of knowing that there's always that hope or opportunity to shift. And so in your, let's say, maybe even your experiences with your journey, or even working with some of your clients, Jessica, and you've hit all these wonderful things, what's one statement perhaps that you or they have said over and over again when they finally have that aha moment? They know it's like there's that shift, or maybe even like a word that really helps them jolt and say, bam, this is part of how they, like, their shift in mindset.
I guess the thing that's coming to mind right now is kind of just like what I'm all about, which is like, you're worthy. Like, no matter your past, no matter your present, no matter the mistakes you've made, no matter the bad choices you've done, you're worthy. Like, none of that defines who you are as a person. And I think, like, I heard that, you may have heard that, but like, really allow it to sink in so deep to like the depths of your heart and your soul. Like, there is nothing that I can do or say that makes me, a bad person. Like, it's just bad choices. It's maybe ignorance, whatever the case may be. Like, you are worthy. That was the message that I had to learn. And it took years. I got to a point when I decided I wanted to make this shift where I was, it's like, I'm worthy. I'm telling myself I'm worthy. And I still get triggered. And I've been working on myself for a decade, and I still get triggered. And it goes back to unworthiness and fear of not being good enough and being unlovable. And so it's constantly just adding tools to your tool belt so you can recognize when you've been triggered, so you don't spiral down into this huge black hole of oblivion and you just go, oh, that's interesting. I think I've been triggered. What's all that about? Let me take off some of my tools from my tool belt and assess the situation. And you keep working on yourself and your self-worth keeps growing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. You are worthy, that statement. And as you mentioned, Jessica, that was where there might be triggers, but you're getting through. You're like, what is this? What are the links? And certainly is important to know what is going on, what's below the surface, right? What's beneath this. And certainly knowing that you can get there. And sometimes it might not feel like you believe that, but as you continue with the mindsets shifting, that can shift. So thank you so much, Jessica, for that. So certainly, audience, if you are going through and overcoming some not so great relationships, or perhaps have questions or are in need of really looking at some dating, or even what do you want for relationships, Jessica is the person you would want to get in contact with. Certainly, I'll have all of her information is in the podcast information. If on YouTube, then you'll get the information on YouTube. And if you have any questions, I will certainly get them to her. Jessica, it's been wonderful having this conversation with you. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work you do. It's transformative.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And with that, audience, this is our Traumaplicity podcast. It happens every week. Certainly tune in and catch every guest who has a word of encouragement, a story, and your story matters. And they certainly have some wonderful tools and encouragement. And know that you are loved, you are worthy, and you are valuable at all times, no matter what. Thank you again. Take care and see you next week. Bye.